Welcome to episode 71 of the Backlot 605 podcast. I am your host, Casey Kelderman. Join with me over the phone to stay away from this pandemic that is happening is Brian Menson.
What's up?
What's up, Brian? I can't see you. I can only hear you. Are you in lockdown?
Yeah. I'm sitting on my floor.
Are you okay? Do you have toilet paper?
I do now.
That's good. That's a good thing.
That's a whole different story, though.
Yeah, so we are entering toilet paper pandemic 2020 with this whole coronavirus thing. Well, let's start off with that because I think we have to address that right here on the top of the show.
Address the elephant in the room?
Address the giant elephant, toilet paper wrapped elephant in the room. Yeah, with that going forward, we're not sure what we're doing going forward for the next month. We are trying to play it safe. That is why Brian is on the phone. We just want to keep contact with the outside world limited. Yeah, I don't know. We're just gonna have to play it by ear for the next month or so, I think. As far as the podcast goes, I would say we definitely will have a podcast every week.
Yeah.
What the topic will be, who knows? I don't know. And that's kind of what this week's topic is the stuff that we're not going to be talking about in the next month, because as we do on every single week of the show, we talk about a movie-related main piece of the show that is related to the main movie that is coming out each week. But with every movie,
or at least we try to anyway.
Yeah, for the most part, we do pretty well with that. And with going forward, with every movie getting delayed or pushed back quite a bit, yeah, we don't know what we're going to do.
We will make it work. That's what we will do.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. There'll still be a box office every week. There'll still be some movie news, and we have that this week, of course, to talk about. So, yeah, we'll do that this week. And yeah, we'll play it by ear for the rest of the shows coming out in the next month or so. Same goes with all our other podcasts that we have, Killer Countdown, as well. So we're just going to play it by ear for now, but we will have a weekly show coming out every single week. At least updating the box office and the news and whatever else movie stuff we want to talk about, because it's our show and we can do what we want.
We are certainly going to try anyway. What were we going to talk about this week that'll be postponed?
Yeah, this week I was excited for this one. We were going to talk about Bong Joon-ho movies with all the hype surrounding him and his big Oscar wins from the year. That's what we were going to talk about. But yeah, we'll push that off to a different date. We will eventually do that episode. We did not want to do it without resident Backlot 605 schmuck Blake Ginneth in here to guide me and Brian through this, because we are both pretty much newbies to that. Yeah, he is more the more foreign film guru than we are. We are just schmucks who are trying to catch up. So yeah, that was supposed to be this week's topic, but instead we'll talk about the movie news and the box office. And yeah, going forward, if our main topic stays the same, great. If not, it's what it is.
It is.
All right, so
we'll figure it out.
So let's talk about the box office for this week. Let's start off with this though. The box office took a deep dive this week. For the first time, it was the lowest box office weekend in, I believe, 20 years is what I looked up. So that itself
is... Well, when you got a few people that don't want to go out in public right now, it was bound to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I was planning to go to the theaters this weekend, and after all this happened, I'm like, yeah, there's movies at home I can watch instead. These movies can wait until they're in the cheap seats in a few months or on VOD then. But yeah, so number one,
I would have to completely agree.
Yeah, it was just it's that type of thing where you're just like, yeah, I'll probably be fine going out to the theater. Nothing's gonna happen, or I won't get sick or anything like that. But you could just stay home and do the same thing. So that was my weekend overall.
Exactly.
But number one this week, let's just jump into these numbers here. Number one, Onward, $10.5 million. Took an unfortunate 73% drop at the box office this week.
Yeah, that's harsh. That's real harsh.
That's a big drop off, and of course, it's going to be because of this global coronavirus pandemic. And yeah, I mean, I don't think any of these numbers should reflect the movie quality itself. But yeah, it's just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate that these movies are taking these dives like this.
Right.
Number 2, I Still Believe, $9.5 million, which is a pretty good opening weekend still for this movie, even during all this craziness that's going on.
But you know what that honestly tells me, though, is that tells me that movie probably easily could have been a 15, 20 million if this wouldn't have been the case.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. What it would have been like during a healthy weekend. I mean, people were going out in droves from what I've heard, and I mean, every year has this type of movie around the March-April time frame, and it does tend to do gangbusters at the box office for a while.
Yes, it does.
Number 3 is our topic of last week's episode, the Vin Diesel-led Bloodshot, $9.3 million. Which, I mean, that's not a bad opening weekend for this movie, especially with all the circumstances going on.
Exactly. I would have to agree. And plus the fact that if you look at the number of theaters that had in comparison, I Still Believe, that's actually, it's still a pretty good, that's only 200,000 approximate between the two, and you're talking almost like 400, 500 theaters in between. So I'd say that's a pretty good comparison between the two.
Yeah, number 4 is The Invisible Man, $6 million, a 60% drop from last week. But yeah, Invisible Man, it's still doing pretty well. It had a very low budget for this film. Domestically, $64 million so far in its run. And then lastly, number 5, The Hunt, $5.3 million. Unfortunate for this movie that it just could not catch a break after being delayed from last fall when this movie was supposed to come out. Got its new release date just a few weeks ago here for this March 13th weekend. Yeah, just a very unfortunate timing for this one and a movie we'll talk about later with all this stuff going on.
Yeah, this is one I legit wanted to actually go out and see. Between this and Bloodshot, those were the two I really wanted to see this weekend. But it wasn't enough for me to go, maybe I'll wait a couple weeks. Hopefully they'll still be in the theater. Hopefully the between the theater goers and the lack of movies and stuff like that are coming out right now, that they'll just kind of sit there and linger to give us an opportunity to go back to go see those.
Yeah, I think we'll... If not, they'll still be in theaters in like a month or so. But besides that, I think we'll see a lot of the movies that are in theaters right now get an early VOD release date as well.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with something like Onward, I could see that ending up on Disney Plus by the end of the year for sure.
Oh, definitely by the end of the year.
All right. So, yeah, that's the box office for the week. Low numbers, I think, for the next month or so. We're going to just see a continual drop of these numbers because, unfortunately, looking at the box office for this week, that's all we have for the next month or so of new releases is what we have in the box office right now, in theaters right now.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, we'll see if this whole thing blows over. Hopefully it does faster or sooner than later, and we can make our lives back to normalcy again. But yeah, with that being said, let's move on to the news for the week. Let's start with all the movie delays, and then we'll jump into the actual movie news for the week.
Well, I would call the movie delays movie news, so I think it still qualifies.
Yeah. We'll run down all the movies that have been delayed or got a new release date. Starting off with A Quiet Place 2, which was set to be released this upcoming weekend, I believe. It gets delayed indefinitely, and there is no set new release date for this film going forward either. Also getting delayed, a couple of Disney and its other properties as well have been moved as well. Mulan gets delayed indefinitely as well. Supposed to come out 2 weeks from now. The movie that just cannot catch a break, New Mutants, also gets delayed again. And then the Fox Searchlight, or just the, what is it now? Just Searchlight Pictures film, Antlers, gets delayed as well. So let's talk about let's talk about New Mutants really quick.
Well, I do want to at least want to say is the fact that, we use the word indefinitely, but I don't think it's a matter of they don't know. They're waiting to figure out what the time slots are going to be once they figure out how this COVID-19 is actually going to play out, so they don't have to put on a date and then pull it off again and whatnot. So, I think indefinitely is kind of a loose term right now.
Yeah, these all will hit theaters. I mean, I think aside maybe for one, and we'll talk about it. But I think the rest are just playing it very close to the chest right now and seeing how this whole thing plays out. If it all of a sudden blows over in 3 weeks, then maybe they're like, all right, we'll drop A Quiet Place 2 now.
Yep.
So New Mutants. This movie just cannot catch a break. It has been delayed multiple times in its post-production. This movie was finished in 2018 with a 2018 release date, and has now been moved multiple times. I've said this. I think I've said this on the podcast probably. But I think New Mutants will just find its way to streaming sooner than later, and just won't get a theatrical run.
Well, here's hoping.
Yeah.
Here's hoping that it's just, I still think there is that, that possibility. Pretty much anything that's when X-Men related has always hit the theaters. I think it's just a matter of all the problems and everything that this movie has had. I think it's just a matter of this just happens to be another one of those, bad timing kind of situations.
Yeah,
I'm still hoping that we'll still be able to see this in the theater. I get your point to thinking that they're just going to give up the ghost and just go with streaming and whatnot. But being, like I said, with the rest of the X-Men movies and this being an X-Men property of the sorts, I still think that there is still that possibility of it being going to be hitting the theaters.
Yeah, I think after this delay here, I think it's just unfortunately not going to happen. There wasn't a whole lot of promotion going into its upcoming release though either. So that was my whole thing is if you're going to put it in theater, you might as well try to market it and try to get some money out of it yet. But at this point, if you're going to delay it once again, it's like you might just want to make it a big thing on Disney Plus or Hulu, like I said, and push it on there and push hard for it, especially during all this. I would say the movie's done. We know that. It's been done for 2 years. I would not be surprised if Disney put out a release saying New Mutants is dropping on Netflix, or not Netflix, Hulu or Disney Plus here next weekend or the weekend after that, and try to draw in those streaming numbers over this period of the coronavirus. People are staying home and watching more movies at home. So I would not be surprised if Disney pulls that out of the hat for this.
Maybe. I guess we will see.
All right. So we did get 2 other movies that did actually get a new release date, with them being pulled out of their release date schedules here in the next couple weeks. Peter Rabbit 2 was originally supposed to release March 27th, now moved to August 7th of this year. And then the big one, Fast and Furious 9, pulls out of its May 22 release date and moves to April 2nd of 2021, moving a whole year ahead. Also moving Fast and Furious 10 back a year as well.
Yes, that's the big one. The 2 big ones that were for me was for A Quiet Place 2 and then that one. Those were the 2 movie tickets I already had pre-bought and whatnot. And it's just like, really, I've been waiting long enough for both of these films and whatnot. But again, I'm not going to give crap to the movie studios or the theaters for wanting to change the date for the sake and safety of everybody that's going to them. So, is it unfortunate? Sure, but at the same time, too, especially with like Fast 9 or whatnot, is they live during that time frame. I can't picture them putting it at any other time of the year. So for them to go to April of next year makes total sense, because that's where the Fast and Furious franchise has always lived and breathed, is during that April-May time frame. So, if they would have moved it to like in August or something like that, I think it just would have felt weird, and I don't think it would have had as much of a gravity as it normally does.
Yeah, I think it was bound to happen for these movies that are coming out here in the next couple weeks. And Fast and the Furious, like you said, it does live in that it likes to hit that early spring release date. It hits that pretty hard every time these movies come out, and kind of kicks off the blockbuster season whenever they do come out. And it's
exactly. Yeah,
I think you might be saying, oh well, it's not supposed to come out till May. But you're still waiting to see how our theater chains react to all this and how the overseas ones do, because Fast and the Furious, as much as it is a big franchise here in the U.S., it's even bigger franchise overseas.
Oh, yes, exactly.
So I think it's a smart move. It's the right move to make, to push it back. And seeing it, like you said, push back a year, it only makes sense because I can't see a Fast and the Furious movie coming out in the fall. Like, it just doesn't feel like that's the time to release the movie.
Exactly. Yep. I'm as much as it pains me to say it, I'm completely on board with this change.
All right, so let's keep going with this type of news here, because this story fascinated me. Full Moon, the production company behind such classics as the Puppet Master franchise, Evil Bong, the Ginger Dead Man. All the cinematic classics that those are, has now.
I like how the fact you say cinematic classics.
Yes, no sarcasm in my voice at all. But the news that fascinated me is that Full Moon has entered post-production on a coronavirus movie. Not pre-production. They're not just starting to work on it. No, they are done shooting this movie, ready to edit, and I can see this movie coming out in the next month with them.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, when I saw this news, I'm like, yeah, it's bound to happen where maybe one of these schlocky B type of studios, maybe Sci-Fi Channel, would put out a coronavirus-style movie here in the next couple months. But to hear that Full Moon has already entered post-production on a movie, I'm like, that's hilarious and a total Full Moon thing to do. Yeah, Charlie Band, way ahead of the curve with Full Moon. Charlie Band for president 2020. I think we should all vote for him.
He's like, hey, I heard about this here. Let's go for it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's move on to a little more normalcy in the news realm. Let's start off with this Scream 5 news that we got here. So I think we mentioned it on a previous episode that Scream 5 is going to happen and will be a continuation of the original 4 Scream movies. But now we have a set directors attached to the film, which is the Radio Silence team who did Ready or Not this past year, which was a very big hit. They've also done other horror films in the same vein, VHS, both of those, VHS 1 and 2, and Southbound. So they're no strangers to the horror genre, and I think this is a perfect group to take on Scream 5.
Oh, I mean, if you look at just how Ready or Not played out and whatnot, this is a fantastic pairing because, Ready or Not definitely is a thriller. It's a horror. It definitely knows its place, and those people to put in that kind of effort into the Scream franchise, I think would just be it's a fantastic pairing.
Yeah, I think this works really well for both ends. I like seeing the Radio Silence guys get now an even bigger project to work on. And then Scream 5, you're getting a great group of guys to work on the film. And I think that's only going to help it going forward because that's some big shoes to step in, taking on the Scream franchise as a director. I mean, Wes Craven did all 4 of them. So that's a pretty big place to fill, and I think having a group of guys will definitely help out with that.
Well, and I did see that Kevin Williamson was going to be on for at least as producing. It hasn't been confirmed whether or not he's going to help with the script and whatnot, but to have at least the original writer, 3 of the 4 of them, to be on set as well, I think is going to be very beneficial to not only the movie itself, but to the fans that are going to go see that movie.
Yeah, I'm very curious as to who will be penning the script for this movie because I mean, you mentioned 3 out of the 4. I think he might be credited still on 3. He did not do a whole lot on 3, which it shows in that franchise.
No, I think he's only credited on 3 as basically at that point his characters. I don't think he did any of the rights. I don't think.
And it definitely shows in the quality of 3, especially in the writing category for that film. And yeah, I think Scream is as much as it was Wes Craven's baby, it is just as much Kevin Williamson's baby as well. And I think having him on as a producer is great. I would love to see him at least get a writing credit as well, maybe working with another writer on Scream 5, but I'm glad he's at least involved in this production.
Exactly. Yeah, if we can have Wes to be a part of it here, he's the next best thing.
Yeah. There is another piece of news I just thought of off the top of my head that I did not put in our show notes, but we should bring up, is that Karen Kusama, who did The Invitation and Destroyer and Jennifer's Body, is going to be doing a Dracula film for Universal.
Well, last I heard for Dracula was that there was talks about James Wan was going to be doing a Dracula film.
And let me I want to make sure it was Dracula and it wasn't anything else. Yeah, it was Dracula. Okay. Yeah, from what I heard, maybe this is the same project. Because I don't think James was attached to direct the movie.
Yeah, because what I saw for James Wan was literally a week ago.
So I'm pulling it up here and make sure we get our news correct here.
Get our facts straight.
Yeah, so Karen Kusama, who did Destroyer, Invitation, Jennifer's Body, is set to direct the Dracula project written by her Destroyer and Invitation writers for Blumhouse and Universal.
Huh. Curious here, because I'm looking at Variety talking about Juan here. But maybe Juan's just on as a producer, which wouldn't be unheard of either.
And let's see what Variety has further on this. It was announced last week that it was teaming, that Universal was teaming with James Wan on a horror thriller inspired by Universal's Monster Legacy. It does not give a specific monster with that one, so maybe he's moved on to a different one after this.
Oh, maybe. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
One way or the other, I like the idea.
Yeah, I think having Karen Kusama take on Dracula is a very inspired choice, and seeing her Invitation writers back with this, which I think is just one of the best horror thrillers of the last decade, is perfect. I would love to see. I can't wait to see what this trio does with the Dracula character and the Dracula mythos for Blumhouse and Universal.
Hopefully we get it right, because obviously we've had a few blunders over the years.
Yeah, and I think this is the right person to go forward with it. With her name attached to it, though, I don't think this will happen. This is just me speaking as a monster fan. I would love to see her do Dracula's daughter instead of just Dracula, because I think that would play very well into today's landscape of both horror and having a little social commentary to it as well. And having her take on that would be a lot of fun. I think it'll probably just be our classic Count Dracula story, but it would be nice to see her take on Dracula's daughter, because it's a very unknown and underrated Universal monster film.
Yeah.
We'll keep you updated going forward as to which one James Wan will eventually take on. I've been hearing Frankenstein from Wan and Bride of Frankenstein mentioned with his name, so we'll see what he has with where he's dipping his toes into the monster franchise.
Dip the toes.
All right. Since we're talking about that, I recently just watched this past weekend Bram Stoker's Dracula from 1992.
Yeah.
What a great movie. Oh, my God. It's so good.
Of course, have you seen very young Keanu Reeves and what Bram Stoker's Dracula?
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Of course I've seen that.
Yeah, so
Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder and Gary Oldman is fantastic.
He's so good in the movie. Anthony Hopkins is really good as Van Helsing. Oh, what a movie. Sitting there watching it, I'm like, they do not, I hate the phrase, they don't make movies like they used to, but in this case, they do not make movies like that anymore.
No.
It was such,
No, that's a hard one to compete with.
Yeah, and it's a hard, like, I could not see a studio dropping that much money on a Dracula film in today's movie world, and having someone like Francis Ford Coppola take it on. Like, that would be like, let's say Martin Scorsese comes up and I want to do a Frankenstein movie in a big budget, big sets, have a huge cast. I think every studio would probably laugh in his face.
Right.
Which is unfortunate. So yeah, that was what I watched this weekend that just blew me away. Anyway,
it's a good watch for you.
It is a great watch. Let's move on to our last piece of news then that we got here. And this one's just a fun one, and we can argue about it because it'll take our minds off this crazy world that we live in, and we can argue about Star Wars. Remember in a simpler time when the most problems we had in the world was Episode 9 wasn't very good? Good times. But this is a new piece of news that has moved into the Star Wars universe. One being that Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is now available on VOD 5 days ahead of when it was supposed to. So when this episode is out, it will already be out. And yeah, the big news that has come out of the Star Wars universe in the last week or so is the revelation of who Emperor Palpatine is in The Rise of Skywalker. Turns out he is a clone of the original Emperor, thus not making him the original Emperor. He is just a clone. Also, that Rey's father is also a failed clone of the original Emperor as well.
It's why didn't clones are an established entity in the Star Wars franchise. This is nothing new, and why is it that we have to wait until we're basically getting the hey, we're going to make this amended storyline so that some of the stuff makes sense, and as opposed to why didn't you just write that into the film? I mean, it's kind of alluded to when you see him just before you see the Emperor for the first time and all the failed what looks like Snoke clones and stuff like that, to realize that Snoke is probably just a failed clone of the Emperor as well. And it's just like, why didn't you just write that and give us that in the movie as opposed to having to tell us after the fact?
That has been my biggest problem with the Disney Star Wars films is they don't give you the full story in the book, in the movie. You have to go to the books to find the entire story of what is happening and who each character is and what certain plot motivations are. This is one of the biggest ones here is, yeah, the Emperor's just back, whatever. Let's move on with the story. It's like, no, you got to explain that. I don't want to read your books to know what's going on in the movie. Like, sure, they've done this for years and had the expanded universe of books and stuff, but it's like that was just more of to further enhance it. It wasn't required reading like these feel like they are to fully understand what's going on in the movie. Those were more of, well, if you liked what's going on in the movie, then you can check these out after and just further expand it, but it's not required like these newer Disney Star Wars are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, the clone thing, I'm cool with it, because, yeah, they've established very well that Emperor Palpatine is behind the clones.
Nothing new.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it would make sense if after he stopped using the clone army of, like, the Attack of the Clones, the Clone Wars group of clones, if he just built, it's like, yeah, I'm going to use this technology on me so I can stay alive forever. That's how I defeat death. And it's like, yeah, that's a cool plot line to try to develop. Let's not do it in a book. Let's do it in the movie instead.
Right.
Yeah, that's just, again, simpler times when Disney Star Wars movies were our biggest problems in the world. But, yeah, this I don't know. Disney just think they need to go back to the drawing board, figure out what they're doing with Star Wars next. Don't rely on the books and comic books to fill in the plot lines of the movies. Tell a good story in the movie, further expanded in the books.
Yeah, where they should be using those books, and like you said, the comics too, is that you do have some of like your preludes and stuff like that that happen via the comics and whatnot, but they're not necessarily, like you said, they're not required reading. They're just there to say, hey, if you want to enhance the story, you can read this and whatnot, but it's not a required read.
Yeah, like the perfect example that I have, I think it's still running right now for Marvel Comics, is the Poe Dameron series, which basically fills in what Poe was doing before Force Awakens, what he's doing between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Like, that's fun stuff to say, hey, this is what this fifth lead character was doing during this time. It's like, sure, yeah, it doesn't need to further explain the plot of the movies. It's just a fun little adventure of what he was doing during certain times that are not shown in the film.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they need to just stick with.
All right.
Granted, it didn't help that they retconned all the previous stuff before they acquired Star Wars.
Well, that's all right, because Chewbacca gets killed by a moon, and that's lame, so I'm glad Chewbacca's still alive. All right, so yeah, that has been the news in the box office for the week. We do not have a main topic for this week, unfortunately. Like we said, we had to get that moved around and postponed as well. Brian, do you have any other final thoughts or anything you want to bring up on the show before we wrap it up and plug some of our other stuff we got going on?
Mainly just with everybody, be safe and don't steal all the toilet paper.
Yes, be nice, be safe to each other, wash your hands, please wash your hands. Don't hoard all the toilet paper and paper goods. Just be safe and play it smart. Don't
People should be washing their hands already.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. Just be kind, be courteous, calm down. We are not running out of the world is not running out of toilet paper. There's plenty of it still around. Just buy what you need if you need it. If you don't need it, don't buy frickin' toilet paper and paper towels. That's it.
Exactly.
All right, so let's wrap this thing up with some of the stuff we got going on here. You can check out the latest episode of the Killer Countdown, where we talk scariest scenes in non-horror movies. We rank our top 8 favorite scenes in that category. Also, you can check out the return, the reboot, the requel, the rehappening, the reiteration, the retelling, the repodcasting of Anime Anatomy. Whichever one of those you want to take.
Where are you going with this?
Yeah, that is Anime Anatomy, our anime-themed podcast, and that is back up on its own feed, so go check out Anime Anatomy on all major podcast streaming services. We are working on getting that back up and running and having, hopefully, weekly episodes on that every single week, so to fill those anime nerds craze, which me and Brian are not. But we know that is a very big part of the movie sector and just entertainment in general. So we want to have something there to fill that.
Definitely.
And you can also check out our buddies Andy at Fat Dude Digs Flicks on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and Corey Jacobson, Somewhat Random Movie Collection on Instagram. And you can check out our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, and YouTube. And then follow Backlot 605 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. And join us in the South Dakota Film Community Group on Facebook. Let's talk movies there. Let's talk about some of your recent watches that you've been doing at home while you're kind of hunkered down and just able to binge watch a bunch of movies. Let us know what you've been watching recently on there.
Yeah, now's a good time to be able to start sharing because we got time to share.
Yeah, we do. So yeah, let's wrap this thing up. Brian, where can the people find you online?
Mainly, you can find me on Instagram, and that's LP Freak, and then also on Letterboxd as well. Same thing.
And you can find me on Instagram, Casey_the horror guy, and follow us on all our social media platforms and join us there. So, yeah, this has been the Backlot 605 podcast. We look very much forward to bringing you new episodes each and every week, and we will continue to do so even during these crazy, crazy times.
Crazy times.
Crazy times. Go and watch a funny movie. Let's all go home, watch a funny movie today, and just feel good about ourselves and the world that we live in.
Go watch something like Stripes.
I was going to say Dumb and Dumber, but Stripes is good,
No.
too. Stripes is good, too. Anyway, thank you all once again for listening, and we'll check you out next time on the Backlot of South Dakota.